702.
On 92.7 and 106 FM.
Streaming on 702.co.za.
The 702 app.
And on DSTV channel 856.
And Dominic is back with the news at 10, where she will be updating the bulletins for us here on Talk Radio 702. My name is Thabo Shole Mashao, and we're together till 12 midnight. Quite a lot to go through. I have been looking at some of the messages that you had sent on the first segment of the show, and I want to do justice to those. I do have some song requests here, people wanting songs for the other hour. You can't have it now. You see, we can't pre-book. You need to call just after 11, then we can see what we'll do then. But here's a very interesting text that came through that says, that which is happening in our country of birth is just all wrong because of greed and dishonesty. I once left church because 3 people of faith owned 3 face brick houses with 3 BMWs parked outside. I religiously paid the 10th with my money my dad gave me. Then I stopped. Why should I pay for the greater good if it does not happen in the end? I used to believe that one generation needs to help the next. Recent events make me lose faith in the character of us. We are hardworking people. Unionists drive Ferraris. Employers give stability. If the job is not okay, find another if you believe in yourself. And there is another text that came through here. I am just moving around as I'm trying to get this one. Okay, this one is just about the song. Dudu in Dobsonville is asking for a particular song. There's a very interesting message that came through. Yeah, here it is. It hurts to hear about brutal killings of children, women by men. I think books like My Father, My Monster by Macintosh Polela can be the reading book to students at their first year of high school. This comes from Mamello, and Mamello has a broken heart emoji there to express his sad sentiments on that one. This one, good evening, Thabo. I've been practicing your surname. Interesting, nice show. Thanks. Thank you so much, Bibi. Really appreciate it. It doesn't take too much practice. It's just Shole Mashao. I'm sure you can get it at a go. The number to dial 011-883-0702. Now, on this feature, between now and 10 o'clock, we are speaking to a media mogul, founder of Zollywood Productions, and a former musician. I don't know if he's still a musician. He'll tell us all about that. And an author. And one of his books, out of many that he has written, there's a book called Is God a White Man? I will ask him about that. His name is Dr. Victor Phume, and he joins us in the studio for a profile interview. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Talk Radio 702. It's lovely to have you in studio.
Thabo, thank you so much for having me. And it's I must say it's a blessing for me to be here tonight and talk to you.
You know, a lot of people have been, as we've been talking about the show, the first thing that they want us to speak about is for you to answer the question, is God a white man?
That's a very good question.
And that's because that's the title of your book.
That's the title of my book, but
Yeah.
I'll start by saying God is incorporeal, meaning that He's not composed of matter. He does not have material substance. And he's free from the tyranny of time. Well, European exegetes, missionaries, depicted God as a white person. The paintings of angels that we see in this continent, paintings of angels, white angels, Adam and Eve as white people, that is completely out of kilter. I think it's really off at a tangent for them to do that. And Africa today has a serious problem. When we dream the supreme being, we dream a white God, and that's a serious problem. And angels, when you ask an African child about angels, it will be white angels. So that is something that as black theologians we need to deal with and help our people on the ground, because missionaries and colonizers, when they came to this continent, they were dealing with the mind. They knew that minds are programmable and that a mind can be stretched. A mind stretched by a new idea cannot return to its old dimension. Well, in this book, It's Got a White Man. I talk about different characters. I talk about the first and the only black woman in Bible history to circumcise a male person. Mm-hmm. I also talk about Habab, the wilderness expert, the man who taught Moses the logistics of life in the wilderness. Moses was black also, and the name Moses is an African name. Moses was raised by Africans. Moses was mentored by Africans and trained by Africans and named by Africans. The name Moses is an African name. It's an Alkebulan name. It's not, in those olden days, you go to the bus office and they'll say, "What is your name?"
Yeah.
And you say, "I'm Thabo."
Yeah.
Then you can't get a bus.
Yeah, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah, it's not enough. They will give you an English name,
Yeah.
right, and say you are and call it Moses, not knowing that that's an African name.
Yeah.
So, talking about colonizers and missionaries when they came to this continent, I think it's in this dispensation we have to decolonize the mind of a black child. Decolonizing the mind of a black child, you're talking about deconstructing our proclivity, deconstructing our preferences, our values that derives from the colonial way of thinking.
And I would want you to expand a little bit more on that.
Yeah.
But just as an introduction, it's one of the books that you have written, and I know that you've written quite many.
Yeah.
Amongst others, you're an author. However, your journey doesn't start there.
Yes.
And I don't know if you ever dreamed of being an author when you were just a little boy. Did you ever think that I'll write a book of this kind back then? And so with that, I'm trying to say, take us a few steps back. How did we get to this book? But take us a couple of years back to you being a little boy.
Being a little boy, I was born and bred up in Soweto. I'm a Soweto boy, Sowetan boy,
Yeah.
Well, there was a time when I wanted to know about the Supreme Being. I wanted to know if there is a God. And I went to this Bible college, World Outreach Bible College. Mm-hmm. And I studied there. After that, I went to ETS Seminary School of Theology in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, it was so difficult for me, Thabo, to really cope. They were saying I'm a little bit slow. And I was so despondent. I wanted to give up hope. I wanted to come back home. And they said I was a little bit mentally slow. Let me put it that way.
This is where? This is at the school?
Yeah, the Texas, at the seminary.
Yeah.
And but after some months, we were able to find out that my problem was their accent.
So it was the American accent,
The American
not the English
accent.
that you didn't
No,
hear.
the American accent. And this one of the teachers sat with me one-on-one.
Yeah.
And then we started to talk. I said, no, I can't hear you. Be slow. Just be a little bit slow.
Yes.
And he became slow. And then from there I was able to hear him. And then I said, look, the problem is that when you say... You say pod, we say pod.
Yes.
You know, and he says hard, and we say it's hard. All those things I can't understand.
Yeah,
That's why I'm a little.
accent.
That's why it's so difficult for me.
Yeah.
Then he went back and told the other teachers. He says, no, no, it's not that. He's not that.
He's not slow.
He's not slow. And then from there, in the evening, I would study a little bit of black theology. You know, and that's one thing that motivated me to want to know about the attributes of God, characteristics of God, and because we were, every time when the white exegetes, when they talk about God, they present God as a person, as a white person, you know. Then I started to have this inquisitive mind, wanting to find out about this white God, you know, and then I found out that there's no white God. And talking about music tips, are just to deviate a little bit. I've written something, and it's on the YouTube, and it has hit 2.5 million views. It's a song called Alkebulan. I'm talking there about that God is not human, and there has never been a time when God did not exist. God is spirit. And when I was a little boy, I'm talking about the lyrics of the song. When I was a little boy, my mother took me to this Christian school where we were asked to pray to a statue, you know, of this white God. And in 82, I was led to this white Jesus as my Lord and Savior. You know, and I, deep down in my heart, I knew that there was something wrong about this white Jesus.
And was that the color of his skin?
The color of his skin.
But I'm sure you had believed it yourself for quite some time. For you to take up theology, for you to be active in your faith and want to pursue it, even at tertiary level. So it means that you had bought everything else packaged about God, including his color.
You're correct, Thabo. I bought that. But still, deep down in my heart, I had a problem with this white God, that why should I be sending my prayers to a white God? And if there's a white God up there, surely the one who must rule on earth has to be white. You know? And so this is the problem that I had. And so I started to do some researches and all that. Then I found out that, biology, if you have studied that, you know that the dark skin is dominant, and the light skin is recessive, and you can't get the dominant from the recessive.
And whilst you're there,
okay,
that has not necessarily been completely everything that consumed your work, your mind. You were also a musician. You also played music at some point. Where does that come in? Because that part is also very important along the journey. Was it before the seminary or was it after?
Well, I started playing at the age of 10, you know, and I became professional at the age of 18, you know, playing with bands. And I was in the secular industry, you know, from secular to gospel.
In secular, was it bubblegum that you were playing?
No, that time it was... Yes,
Yes.
It was bubblegum, it was soul, we used to play soul and pop, and fusion also.
Who was also playing at that time? Was it the time of Koloi Libona and others?
Yeah, Koloi Libona played before us.
Okay.
Koloi Libona and them were Babsis. Those were our seniors.
Yes.
It was the time of the movers.
Yes.
Yeah, the time of movers and the time of Soul Brothers.
Yes.
And so... But I moved from the secular after accepting this white Jesus as my Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
So I moved from the secular to gospel.
Yeah. And you thought this is not the music to play.
No.
Yeah.
This is not the music to play. I have to play gospel music only and listen to gospel music only.
And what was the reaction from those who were your peers at the time, those who were playing with you music, and those who thought you were talented and you shouldn't be giving your back to secular music?
Well, they were like astonished. This Victor Phume is now born again. He's no longer going to come visit us and jam with us.
Yeah.
And every time when they visit me, I'll just preach to them and tell them about Jesus. If you want to be my friend again, you have to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. You have to confess all your sins. And so I'm not saying to be born again is wrong. I want people to understand me out there. I'm still a believer.
Yeah.
I'm still a believer. I believe in the existence of God. I believe that God is spirit, not human. And I believe that Jesus in heaven is not a human being. He's not a Jew in heaven. Jesus in heaven is the second person of the Trinity of God. And I believe in the second coming. I'm still...
Yeah, but all of that, and it appears that you would be so consumed in your faith, in your beliefs, in Christianity, as you put it, but it goes far beyond that.
Yeah.
You run Zollywood Productions,
yes.
And I want you to tell us how. And Zollywood Productions is in charge of How TV, Twani TV, and many other media entities under that. And it is very rare that you'd have someone like you who has a very large portfolio of media catalog in that instance. How does then media meet you in that faith?
Remember, I'm a musician, and I realize that I have defined myself incorrectly. Like the railroads defined their business incorrectly. They were product orientated, and they were just talking railroad. Somebody with a sharp mind came and said, "You know what? You are not in the railroad business. You have defined your business incorrectly. You should have invented aeroplanes and cars. You are in the transportation business." Hollywood also, they were product orientated and defined their business incorrectly. They were talking movie. Somebody with a prudent mind came and said, "You're not in the movie business. You are in the entertainment business." So I realized that I'm not just a musician. So I wanted to become a sound engineer.
Yeah.
And then I became the first black sound engineer in this country with recording equipment.
Yeah.
In
South Africa.
Yeah. So, but being a sound engineer, then I realized, no, again, there's something wrong here. I have to bring product segmentation. I'm dealing with sound, but I must bring in video. We call it audio. So I bought cameras.
As a sound engineer at the time, because sound is not enough. You want audio visual now.
Yes, now I'm going for audio. Audio. So then I started to make music videos for people, shooting music videos, and end up doing some work for SABC, a lot of work for SABC, DSTV, and until we said, okay, what else do we want to do?
Yeah.
We are a production house,
Yes.
but do we end right here?
Yeah.
And licenses were issued by ICASA,
Yeah.
and there were people who had licenses
Yeah.
of community television
Yes.
stations, and we jumped on that.
Yeah.
And also, How TV, we went to DSTV and presented and said, can we have another channel?
Yeah.
And we were given another channel
Yeah.
on television. So,
And that's on DSTV 265.
yeah, How TV, DSTV 265, Tswane TV 262.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, it's not only that,
Yeah.
Thabo. We spoke about books. Now we're talking about television business.
Yeah. And
I also have other projects like Alkebulan Connect.
Yeah.
Alkebulan Authors Platform.
Yeah.
Alkebulan Female Archbishopric. The chief objective of Alkebulan Connect is to play a catalytical role in helping television stations in Africa to share content and airtime.
Amongst themselves.
As
continental media players.
Yeah, yes, because to aggregate content is very expensive. But if you are a television station in Malawi and we give you 26 episodes,
Yeah.
subtitled.
Yes.
And
yes.
you give us 26 episodes, so we'll play something that we do not have and we do not pay for it.
Yeah. And there's cooperation there.
There's cooperation there. And
Yeah.
with Alkebulan Female Archbishopric, it's about empowering women in the church.
Yeah.
We have ostracized women. We have very few archbishops, female archbishops in this continent. Very few. It's predominantly men. And I think women are custodians of salvation. God, there's a prophecy in Genesis 3 where God said the seed of the woman will bruise the head of the serpent. That's after Adam and Eve have moved from the circumference of eternity and stepped into time. They ate the tree that giveth knowledge of what is good and bad. You're going to allow me to preach a little bit? Yes.
I was just going to warn you not to. But I see the preacher in you is always coming out. No, I mean, you'll get away with it every now and then. It's okay. But let's, on Alkebulan.
Yeah.
A couple of months ago or years ago, but very recently, not too long ago, you then decided to put together proper content on YouTube where you are somehow on a deliberate journey to decolonize Christianity, to decolonize the concept of God, to decolonize African misperceptions about what the journey of belief is. I mean, you speak about a number of issues there, and you speak about black people writing the Bible, and
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah. I mean, tell us a little bit about that, especially on Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay. I was able to get some information from the catacombs of Russia, artifacts, and we also got information as we're doing our research that Leonardo da Vinci in the 1400s, he was commissioned to paint the Last Supper. And he took his uncle as a model for Jesus, went to prison. This is in the public domain.
Yes.
Went to prison, took 12 inmates, put them next to his uncle, and painted the Last Supper, the 12 disciples and
Really?
Jesus as white. And so,
Really?
And so in the 1400s, there were no cameras, and So that has been inculcated in the minds of Africans, that the person who owns the rights for that Last Supper paintings controls planet Earth. That painting is everywhere. There are very, very few houses without that painting of the Last Supper.
Yeah.
And we believe that when this person who's on that painting, when he comes back, it's going to be the same person on the painting will be coming back.
Sure. And is that part of the mass indoctrination, not just of black people, but generally of human beings? And I mean, you can quote the Council of Nicaea if you want to,
yes.
And those where then the church congregates and
yes.
decide
and
which
decide
direction.
what goes into the canon.
Yeah.
What goes into the canon. It's something that we need to talk about a lot. I think church leaders have to bring a paradigm shift in the minds of congregants, and let's tell them the truth that Jesus is not a white person.
And if you say, Dr. Phume, that the Bible was written by black people, that on its own, I can hear a number of our listeners saying that.
Yeah.
If you're saying it is written by black people,
that's what I say.
You're arguing that it's written by black people.
Yeah.
Then a number of the listeners who are tuned in right now will then argue that that book has been a very potent instrument of suppression of black people.
Good.
How is it that it were black people who wrote the book that then oppressed them? By and large, we do know in this country there was something called Christian Trusteeship Act and various other legislations that were leaning towards Christianity, justifying apartheid and all sorts of oppression of a black person, using the Bible as a reference to do that.
Yeah, I'll say to you, Thabo, all people who left Egypt during the time of Moses were Africans, they were black. They were there 400 years of slavery, and God spoke to Moses, who was an African, who was born in Egypt. And God used Moses. The mystery of God inspiring prophets and scribes to write the scrolls originated in the timeless mind of God long before the foundations of the earth. So Moses wrote the Pentateuch. The Torah was written by Moses. The first 5 books in the Bible were written by Moses. And that's why I always say the Bible was written by black people. All the characters, let me put it that way, all the characters in the Bible, they were black. The Egyptians, let me say to you, the Egyptians of old were black.
I want us to come to that.
The Egyptians and the Israelites, the Hebrews of old, were black. Today they are, you have white Hebrews, white Jews, because of miscegenation, intermarriages. That's why most of them, their surnames are German surnames. But if you go back, it's us.
And I want you to tell us back where exactly, but in a short while. It's 25 minutes to 10 o'clock. My guest is Dr. Victor Phume, who is the founder of Zollywood Productions. He is a theologian. He is an author. He's a businessman. And on this profile feature this Friday here on Talk Radio 702, we are looking at him and his life, his works. And we are just having a conversation around that. If you want to join the discussion, you are at liberty to do so. The number to dial is 011 883 0702 011 883 0702. And if you want to join the discussion on WhatsApp, you can also send your WhatsApp messages on 072 702 1702. Your voice notes, please make sure that they are not over a minute and there are no expletives in there to surprise us. So if you can just keep it clean and then send it, make sure that it's recorded under 1 minute. But also, when you do so, please reduce the volume of your radio or your TV set. 072 702 1702. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to ask him any other question based on what we have been discussing. It's now 23 to 10, and we just continue with the discussion just after the break.
Profile interview.
Profile interview with Dr. Phume. And Doc, I mean, this... it appears that it has been a large component of your life. Mm-hmm. It has occupied everything else that you have been touching, be it music, be it media, be it business. I want you to take us back when you went to the US and you were studying. I'm sure at the time there were South Africans that side and you were interacting with them. There were those who were in exile, and it was the times were different to what they are right now. And what was your reception like as you were on this journey? Because people think it's easy, people think it's now you're here, you own all these media entities. It must have been very easy for you. I'm sure you met a number of obstacles.
Yes, I have met a number of obstacles. As I said, number one, it was so difficult for me. I've explained that. And I would want to connect with South Africans when I was there. And I remember there was a time when I called Elliot Makaya.
Yes.
You know, the late Elliot Makaya.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Who used to work for Sowetan.
So he used to work for Sowetan, and we were friends with Elliot Makaya.
Yeah.
So I called Elliot Makaya, said, can you give me Duma Ndlovu's numbers?
Yes,
because Duma at that time was in the States. I said, I want to connect with Duma. And Elliot Makaya said, no, okay, fine, I'll get you his numbers. And he got me his numbers. And I was able to connect with Duma Ndlovu. You know, we knew each other with Duma.
Yeah, who's now the executive producer of Muvango.
Yes. And connected with him. I said, this is Victor Phume. He could not remember me.
When? In the States?
In the States, yeah. We were on the phone. I said, Duma, this is Victor Phume. Do you remember me? We were friends. You know, at that time he used to work, I think he used to work for World Newspaper.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do
World
remember
Newspaper.
World Newspaper, yes.
Then he said, okay, fine. And then he remembered. And then from there I said, Nama Peshu Lapa, I brought some Peshus here with me. You know, They said, okay, we will connect, and I was able to connect with him later on.
Yeah.
But going back to the Bible, it's very important that we tell our people in Africa the truth about the Bible. And number one, I'm going to emphasize again that God is not a human being. If we can start there, that God is not white, then we'll be able to liberate our people.
Yeah, but you know, more than that, there are, before we even get to God, there are people who don't even believe in the existence of God.
Yes,
and very validly so, and they would say, "Where's the proof?" You are basing all of that perhaps on subjectivity, because faith cannot be proved. You see, there's no evidence that is pointing towards that direction. And there is no empirical tools that you would put on the table and say, here you go. That's why I say there's a God out there.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, a lot of people do not believe in the existence of God because he's been depicted by, to black people, is because he's been depicted as a white person. And that's why other people would say, okay, they came with the Bible on the left hand, and on the right hand they had their canon.
Yeah. But the white people who don't believe in God as well.
Yeah, we do have white people who do not believe in God.
Yeah.
But there is a God there. Without reading the Bible, your conscience tells you, okay, where do we come from then? Why are we here?
Evolution, perhaps?
No, evolution is something that comes from the mind. It's been created by the mind. And minds can use speculative thinking or even predigested thinking.
Yeah. As much as faith is, it's speculated, because what you currently believe can be interpreted differently by another theologian or a philosopher for that matter. Yeah. What you are presenting now can be argued convincingly by your colleague in the same field that you are in. Yeah. That you don't agree amongst yourselves. So how is that proof enough for me if I'm on the outside?
No, you'll always have different interpretations, different exegesis, different eisegesis. Hermeneutics will be different because we are from different schools. Yeah. We're from different schools. If you look at a denomination that I come from, I come from a Pentecostal background, but I began to realize that I've got to learn other things, So when you talk about interpretation would not erase the existence of the Supreme Being. Thabo, let's just say there is no God.
Yeah.
No universe.
Yeah.
What is it that you see?
People.
There's no universe. There's no God.
Yeah. But
there's nothing.
Then it would be darkness.
Darkness is something. I said there's nothing.
Yeah, but if you asked what do I see, I'm assuming it would be darkness because I'd be seeing. The premise of your question suggests that I'm able to conceptualize vision of sorts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the Supreme Being is there because I'll tell you, we are here on planet Earth. Then where do we come from? Why are we here? There is death. What is death? There's no one who can come and tell you and say, I can tell you when you die, this is what happens to you and this is what you see. Me and you, we haven't experienced that. But what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say you have so many religions that attest and testify that there is a Supreme Being, and there was a time when a person who could not speak, who was dumb, deaf, blind, they were able to communicate. They invented a gadget that was able to communicate with this person, and they asked him a question: do you believe in God? He says, I always knew that there was a Supreme Being, and it's...
So you're arguing God is not a product of socialization of sorts?
No. There is God. That's why if you go back to the times of black people calling God Umvelingang, where did they get that from? And the vendors will say Mudzimu, and then you go and then you find others saying Yahweh. And God has appeared to different people at different times. And there is what we call, another thing that really makes me to believe is theophany and Christophanies. Christ appearing to men before he was born.
Yeah.
And in Bethlehem. And God appearing to people.
But so they say.
Before the Bible was written.
Definitely, but so they say.
Yeah.
So they say, and so they argue.
Yeah.
Without also providing sufficient evidence to the effect. Because if I come to you tomorrow and I tell you that God said I should do this and that,
There are people who prophesy off at a tangent. There are people who are self-appointed prophets. We've got imposters out there who come in the name of God and say, God has shown me. I mean, there was a story that we had. These two couple came. It was a girl and a boy. They went into this church, and the minister came and says, the Lord has shown me that you are going to get married to this woman. And this boy said, this is my sister. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, certainly. Let's take some voice notes, if you will. And they came on 072 702 1702. Let's take the voice notes and hear what you have to say.
Hello, I'd like the guest in the studio right now to also talk about King James, the one who got the scholars to translate the Bible into English, because of his distrust of the then leaders of the church who were forbidden people to read the Bible. I want him to talk about that, how that also helped the scriptures to be read by common people, but most importantly, to just underline the fact that King James was a black man. Thank you.
Morning to our guest in the studio on 702 family. I just want to ask about, actually the question to our guest. Just want to ask, does he believe we still have some prophets, like the real prophet? Has he met one? Does he believe in those people who do readings? Does he go to them? Like, I just want to know.
Good evening. My name is Lerato, and I would just like to comment and thank Dr. Victor Phume for being around tonight. And thanks a lot for bringing him. This is really eye-opening, and it's truly a blessing to still have people like him around. I really feel blessed, and already I am going through YouTube, viewing his content. That is very blissful. Thank you so much for bringing him.
Wow, Thabo. I can be siding with Dr. Phume on this one. You are speaking with Sharon at Bellevue, Johannesburg. When John was in Patmos, he said, I sat on that right-hand side of the Most High, whose hair was like wool and his feet was like brass. Who's any other person that has a hair that like wool is a black person, that has that has feet that is like bronze, which represents black, is us black people. So many will be surprised. It clearly says in the Bible in Revelation, I said at the right hand side of the Most High, whose hair is like wool, his feet is like brass. This is describing a black person. Thank you.
Definitely, but it is also an account of a human being. And one of our worst aspects of fallibility would be our minds. And often our minds play tricks on us. You'd think that yesterday I was wearing a yellow shirt, and to think that it was white, and a mind is playing trick. And I'm saying this deliberately to find out exactly, because sometimes a religion and a form of spirituality can be politicized to advance a certain agenda, as we've seen in South Africa, as we've seen in the world. And that's how you started, Dr. Phume. I don't know, but if you want to respond to some of the voice notes that
Yes, I am going to respond, but I'll start by saying we spoke about Alkebulan, and the name Alkebulan is an ancient name for Africa. It means the Garden of Eden. And it also means the home of mankind.
Yes.
Well, this continent was called Alkebulan, and we talked about the dark skin that is dominant and the light skin is recessive, and we said you cannot get the dominant from the recessive, but you can get the recessive from the dominant. And two white people cannot produce yellow is not in their genetic makeup to do that. It's a biological, mathematical impossibility for them to do that. Two black people can produce, an albino. And it shows that we are the home of humanity. So, talking about King James was whitewashed. King James, the brother said that King James was black. He's correct. King James was black, and he's the one who commissioned a company of black people to translate the Bible into English. A black person, but we do not talk about that. Yeah. White exegetes would not talk about that King James was black. And
what is the evidence to the effect?
The evidence to the effect, you can go to, Thabo, I know you can go to the catacombs.
Okay.
You go to the catacombs of Russia and you'll find all those artifacts that we were not allowed to know about it. I mean, artifacts that will show you, artifacts that were done many, many, many years ago.
But you would also know on the issue of people living with albinism that it is just lack of melanin.
Yeah.
In that effect. It is not necessarily a reflection of prowessness of black genes.
Yes.
It is lack of melanin.
I agree with you, but I'm trying to show you that the dark skin is dominant, and if the dark skin is dominant, that means you have to come on board and say, okay, the light skin is recessive, and you can't get what you get from the dominant skin. Yeah. So I'm trying to say, remember, we're talking about the Bible. We're talking about black people in the Bible, and we are saying the church has to start teaching people things that white missionaries did not talk about. Okay, and another question here. It was. Lerato, there's a lady by the Lerato was saying, yes, I agree with what Dr. Phume is saying. And there was another question about imposters. It's true that we will always have imposters. And I mean, I would not agree with a pastor who take the money from the congregants and use that money extravagantly, buying posh cars, buying all these beautiful cars, and while you have people who are facing impoverishment, who are facing precarious situations in the church, and you just taking the money. I understand that, yes, people have to tithe, but not use that money extravagantly and be buying
lavish lifestyle.
Yes, but we do have that kind of we do have those kind of problems in this country, and the whole continent, even the whole world, is facing that. And but I think it's time that we talk about these things on radio. Thabo, call more people like me to come and talk about black people in the Bible, and I think that will really help. It will bring a paradigm shift to the minds of people.
As we're coming to the conclusion of our talk, time just flies. As we come to the conclusion, I would like you to share a little bit, because you have something called the Authors Platform, and it's part of the work that you are doing to empower authors in South Africa and the continent about their books. Tell us a little bit about that.
Thabo, we've got so many authors in this continent. And we have very few authors who are multimillionaires by selling their products.
Because writing does not necessarily produce a lot of money in South Africa.
Yes. But you have billionaires outside this continent, outside this country, who have sold so many copies of their books. In 1963, there was a book released entitled Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
I was one of the people, but I didn't buy it in 1963.
Yes.
I was one of the people who bought that book in the 80s.
Yes.
And it did not help us to be rich.
Yeah.
And we bought that book.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you that we have very, very gifted authors in this continent. And we are not selling books as authors. We give books. We give books to friends, relatives, and people that we don't even know.
Yeah.
And they don't read our books.
Yeah.
So the Alkebulan Authors Platform, we have 3 precision tools that we are going to use to promote authors in this continent. We want to give free airtime on television
To the authors.
to promote their products.
Yeah. South African authors. Yeah.
South African authors. We've got other television stations like Crown TV from Zambia that has joined the Alkebulan Authors Platform. We've got Light TV from Ghana. You've got Alkebulan TV from Uganda. You've got How TV and Tswane TV that is ready, and we believe that other television stations will join this platform. So, precision tool number 2.
Yeah.
We have a competition to be won by the best author. How to enter this competition? I'll tell you, Thabo, this opportunity is exclusively open to self-published African authors who are invited to be part of this once-off lifetime Alkebulan Authors Platform. How to enter the competition? You need to be a member of the Alkebulan Authors Platform. That's number 1. Number 2, after you've registered, you send us a copy of your book, and then your hardcover, and you also send us a 2 minutes video about your book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the winner will walk away with 1 million rands in cash. I'll tell you why competition.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say you are an author from Ghana and you enter this competition, or from South Africa, you enter this competition and you win 1 million rands. Eyeballs will be focusing on you.
On your book.
On your book.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you sell your book.
So
that
it will be a magnet of sorts.
Yes.
Yeah.
People will begin to have friendly feelings.
Yes.
Towards your product.
And it's
and it will sell.
Yeah. Dr. Phume, it's been great being with you. Unfortunately,
is it time up?
It is time up.
Okay.
Unfortunately, on radio, we do respect time. We could talk for 24 days without stopping, without eating. But sadly, we've come to the end of this segment, and I'm hoping it won't be the last time we speak to you. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
Thabo, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And God bless you.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to more interactions. And where can people see your videos and follow you?
Well, they'll just go to my YouTube. They just type Dr. Victor Phume YouTube.
Yeah. And that's where we'll find you.
They will find me.
Definitely.